Please put your hands together for Croydon and Sutton BNP Chairman Cliff LeMay.
Right, a little bit more about me in a minute, but first I want to say it's lovely to be here. It's a pleasure and a privilege to come over and see our sister branch in Bexley and the fantastic work that Mike does. Wasn't he fantastic? I mean, he knows all the facts, he knows all the figures, he's natural, he's an excellent fella. And it's no wonder, because some of you may not know, he won Activist of the Year. So I want a round of applause. Well deserved, because look what he's built. This is a place for our people where we can come together, we can discuss the issues that impact on us, and we can go forward together. And I think that's really, really fantastic, and it's a pleasure and a privilege, as I said, to be invited to speak at your meeting. Now, as Mike said, I'm Cliff LeMay, bloody foreigners. LeMay, just to clarify.
Bloody Norman.
Yeah, Flemish. My family came here in 1066. So, you could call me a Flemish or Norman or whatever, but I think after 1066, I don't think there's a lot of that blood left. Now the reason I'm here, as Mike said, is to tell you about the success, and it's wonderful to have success because there's so much negativity in the world. There's so much, you know, forget what's going on in the rest of the world, just in our lives. There's so much that's impacting us, financially, emotionally, you know, everyday lives with the hustle and bustle. We're really, really getting squeezed. As Indigenous British people, we are really, really at the bottom of the pile. So it's wonderful to come here and use the word victory, which is a lovely word. It's not one I say often, and I want to say it again, victory, because we are really, really got something to celebrate tonight. Now, how this all started, last year, our local paper, the Croydon Advertiser, on the front page, they're no friends of ours, by the way, Croydon Advertiser, but on the front page was an advert saying Muslim sect seeking premises, I mean I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact words, in New Addington. Now, they weren't just looking in New Addington. I don't know if any of you lot are au fait with Croydon particularly, but New Addington is a very, very tight-knit community. It's almost separated geographically from the rest of Croydon. You can only get to it by the tram. You know, people say we've all got 6 fingers and whatever else because we're all a little bit inbred. But there is a real community spirit in Addington. There are people there that have been there. It was built after the war to take in the homeless whose houses had been bombed from the East End and Tooting and Wandsworth and Peckham. And, you know, and there's working class people there. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody sticks together. There's a wonderful atmosphere there. And of course, the powers that be are doing their best to destroy that because they can't. You know, they can't have Indigenous people congregating together without being enriched. We needed enrichment. We were ripe for it. So, anyway, the Croydon Advertiser said that this group, this Muslim group, were seeking premises, suitable premises, to set up a mosque in New Addington. Now, this particular sect, because I'm going to call them a sect because they are a side sect to the main Muslim groups. It's not just Shia and Sunni, there are dozens of groups. And this group, the Al-Ahmadiyya sect, is a very, very small sect, but they're very rich. They have a hell of a lot of money. Don't know where their money comes from, but they have a huge amount of money, but very little support amongst the Muslims themselves. So when we heard this, what we did was we liaised with those who know better, people that have got experience, other BNP branches that have got experience in dealing with this situation, what happens when a mosque is proposed. We monitored all the sites, the council's planning application sites, we monitored in the paper, planning application sites. And what we found was that there are always 3 steps that you must take when a mosque is proposed in your area against the wishes of the majority of the people. And step 1 is always to gauge public opinion. We had a pretty good idea what public opinion would be, but of course you do that. So we done a two-pronged plan. We were at the local parade of shops, which is the busiest part, every Friday, every Saturday. Friday's market day, Saturday obviously people that work in the week, they come to the parade on a Saturday. So they're the two busiest days of the week. Some of our activists were even out on the Tuesday, which is also a market day. So that was one prong. We had a tabletop sale, we had our literature, and we had signatures for people to sign to say, I am opposed to the mosque. The other way we done about it was in the evenings, we had groups of people going out. Normally it was about 8 of us. We'd split into a couple of groups and we would cover certain roads, door to door. And we used the electoral register because chances are, if it's Mr. Smith, chances are he's going to sign your petition. If it's Mr. Alamadaya, then chances are he probably won't. We did this for about 6 weeks, and we garnered 2,000 signatures. We could have got more, we could have got 20,000, I'm sure of it. But we were looking to stage 2, which is to book a hall, and the hall could only hold 300 people. So if you've got 2,000 signatures, even if 2,000 turn up, you know, you're not going to fit them in the hall that only holds 300 people. So what we knew from experience, if you invite 2,000, you're going to get 300. So that was what we were doing. Now, one of the interesting things that we found, it wasn't just indigenous, native, British, New Addington, born and bred people that were signing our signatures. We were getting black Christians, African Christians, who had fled. I mean, we know about Boko Haram, we know what's happening in Somalia and Sudan and all over Africa, basically, Congo and all these places where these Islamic militants are causing trouble under various different umbrellas. And a lot of these people had come here to escape that. And they were more than willing. They knew we were BNP. We had a desktop, same as this, BNP logo. We said, this is not a BNP campaign, but we are on behalf of our community. You don't want a mosque here, we don't want a mosque here, please sign off a petition. And they were signing it. And surprisingly, we even had other Muslims who were signing it. And this is not the first time this has happened. We asked these, well, we already knew the answer, but we asked these Muslims, why are you signing it? And they said, this Al-Ahmadiyya sect is a radical sect. We don't want them here because it will radicalise our children. Now, 20 years ago, the Al-Ahmadiyya sect, the same sect, proposed to build a mosque in Morden. And step 1 was enacted, with signatures were garnered. Step 2 was enacted, which was a public meeting. I'll tell more about step 2 and 3 later. And at that meeting, which did actually go ahead, Muslim community leaders stood up and they said, we don't want them here because they will radicalise our children. We're Muslims, they're Muslims, but these guys are nutters, you know. Now, in the upshot, that mosque did go ahead. That mosque in Morden is now the largest mosque. Even though they're a tiny group, they've got loads of money, that is now the largest mosque in Western Europe. It's got 5 floors, 4 of which are built underground, and it's got room for 10,000 worshippers. It's the largest mosque, the only mosque that anywhere near the same size is in Turkey. So in Western Europe, it's the largest mosque in Western Europe, even though they're a tiny group. And then just recently, within the last 4 years, they've got another mosque in London Road, opposite Mayday Hospital, what used to be called Mayday, or Mayday Hospital, as we all called it and still do, which is notorious for failing. But across the road from there, they've got a mosque. They've done exactly the same thing. That is in stage 2 of 5, because this is what happened in the Morden Mosque. They had stage 1, which was the land that they were granted. Stage 2 was they bought up all the houses in the local area. Stage 3, they knocked them all down. They used part of that to expand the mosque, which was stage 4. Stage 5 was building underneath it and making an abundant amount of car parking. And they're doing exactly the same thing in London Road. They're now on stage 3, which is buying all the houses all the way around, offering people derisory amount of money, moving their followers in and their supporters in. So we didn't want that in Addington. We had experience with this group 20 years ago in Malden. Unfortunately, we lost in Malden. That mosque did go ahead. It's now, as I say, the largest mosque in Western Europe. We were determined, on the behalf, not on the behalf of the BNP, on the behalf of the people of New Addington, or the people of Croydon, we were determined that this group were not going to usurp our community. This is our community. We have a right to have a community. I mean, if you listen to the powers that be, you wouldn't think so. We all have to be enriched. We all have to be indoctrinated with multiculturalism. Even though you do get areas of London where groups of Africans or groups of Muslims or various other groups are allowed to be themselves in their own areas, we're not allowed that. We're not afforded that luxury. We are forced to integrate because of the liberal agenda. And we were determined that that would not happen in New Addington. So we went to stage 2, which is booking a meeting, a public meeting, whereby you invite the imams of the Ahmadiyya sect, you invite the local councillors, whatever stripe they may be. Most of our local, well, all of our local councillors were Labour, but the MP for Croydon Central, Gavin Barwell, is a Tory. So we invited the imams through email. We contacted the councillors, same way, email. Gavin Barwell, we invited. We liaised with the police. Obviously, we liaised with the ACA, which is the place where we were due to have the meeting. That's called the Addington Community Association, ACA for short. As I say, it holds 300 people. At our own expense, and the money that, because we had a bucket on the table when we were collecting signatures. As I say, we garnered 2,000 signatures. People were putting money in the bucket. So we used that, plus some of our own money, party funds, branch funds, to print up leaflets to let people know that we were having a public meeting. As I say, I liaised with the police chief, Yvette Cooper. She was fine with the meeting to go ahead. She was happy to police it, happy that it was a public meeting, not a BNP meeting. We liaised with the guy that runs the ACA, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He was happy for the meeting to go ahead. He was happy that it was a public meeting, not a BNP meeting. We were doing it on behalf of the people, but it was a public meeting. It wasn't going to be, we were not going to have BNP literature or anything like that. We were there just to facilitate the wishes of the people and to convey them to the councillors and to ask the councillors to act on behalf of the majority. Now, we came up against a lot of negativity. As I say, the meeting was booked in good faith. The police were happy for it to go ahead. The local paper, who's no friend of ours, we've had various runs in with the Croydon Advertiser. It's owned by Mirror Trinity Group, which is Daily Mirror, left-leaning group. They printed in the next week's article, they printed a demographic of New Addington, and they said that in our community, in New Addington, 20% of all people eligible to vote, that's not 20% of the people, 20% of all people eligible to vote were Muslim. Now that's a lie. That's a damn lie. We looked it up on the census. It is actually 5%. But even if it was 20%, which is 1 in 5, what about the other 4 people? Don't they get a say? Does 1 person in 5 get to say what the other 4 have to do? You know, this is the point that we were trying to make. So we had a hostile media. We had no redress. We wrote to them to point out that they were lying, whether deliberately or by mistake, who knows. They didn't print them. We had a total media block to do with our side. We had the Conservative MP, Gavin Barwell, for Croydon Central. He came out in the Croydon Advertiser and he said we'd be very happy to see a mosque being built in New Addington. It's very magnanimous of Mr Barwell, but I'm not too sure if he'd be very happy to see a mosque built in his leafy suburb where he lives. And I did propose to the branch, although in the end it was decided not to do so, but we were going to leaflet his road, find out where he lives and leaflet his road, and inform his neighbours that Mr Barwell would be very happy for a mosque in the local community and see what his neighbours made of that. But as I say, very magnanimous of him. I'm sure he wouldn't want it next door to his house or at the end of his road. We also, our local Labour councillor, Simon Hall, he also said that he would be very happy to be inclusive, and it was about time Addington, us wicked white people, that we all stick together. Isn't it terrible? It's about time we became more inclusive. I'm paraphrasing, there's no burning exact words, I don't want to end up in court. But this was strange, coming from Simon Hall, in light of his sexual proclivities. And I'm not going to go too far to that, but we all know what these Muslims think of people of certain sexual persuasions and how they treat them. We've seen the photos of them throwing people off the top of buildings. And yet he is so liberal that he would rather that in his community, people fostering those types of views, than have a white, indigenous, working class community. He hates us so much. He hates his own people. He has self-loathing for his own people so much that he would rather that if enrichment means that he'll be thrown off a building, he would rather that than us to have an indigenous community in New Addington. And I don't know if that's sad or bad. I really don't know. I really don't know. But this is what we were up against. Now, as I say, the third step is to organise the meeting. By this time, this has gone on now maybe 8-12 weeks. We were getting whispers from the community where they were looking. Now, we have a British Legion in New Addington. Unfortunately, they're in financial trouble. It's a wonderful building, has all these memorials outside. And we heard that they were looking there. We heard that if that Legion was to shut down, a British Legion, with stones outside with the names of the fallen from Addington, if that building was to come up for sale, they would be happy to acquire that building and turn it into a mosque. That wasn't their main interest. Their main interest was, in Addington we have a factory estate, and there is a halal food factory there that it supplies the chicken to all these chicken and chip shops, halal chicken. That has been raided on numerous occasions, I believe, by the health and safety people because breaches of health and safety laws, and they're struggling financially. And that, we believe, was the main site that they were looking at, because it's in a factory estate, parking would be non-invasive, and it's a huge, great building. You know, it stretches right back, and there would be plenty of room to buy up the other units and expand, or knock them down and turn them into a car park. You know, so the third option that they were looking at was mooted. Was we have a temporary library building, and some people were saying that it was possible that it could go in there. So as things were progressing, we were getting more and more information about how these guys were looking and what they were looking at and what they were up to. We got no answer from the imams about our meeting. We set a date for the meeting. We got no answer from the imams, no feedback at all. They were completely blanked us. The same thing happened with the councillors, like all the local Labour councillors, of which there are 4, 2 in each ward of New Addington. Same thing happened with Gavin Barwell. So every single day we set up an email thing that every day they would get the same email. Everybody, every day. They had at least 15 days notice before the meeting. They all ignored us, which I think is underhand, to be honest with you. I think it's cowardice, because it's not me they're ignoring, it's the community. You know, the community were going to go there and voice their concerns, and they expected those that they voted for to take on them concerns and take them back and to talk to the imams and say, you know what, you might be better off somewhere else because the people here don't want it. At that point I started to read the Quran, because I thought, well, I can't stand up against a mosque unless I know what I'm talking about. Because we did have people come up to us on the stall, and they said, well, what have you got against the Quran? And I said, well, it's nothing against having something against other people, it's just that I love my people, and I want this to remain a homogenous society. Where I live, crime is very low, people are happy. You know, if you see an old girl walking down the road, you know who she is, you know where she lives, you know if she falls over, you know where you're going to take her, and you know no one's going to rob her. We haven't been enriched by diversity. We're a tight-knit community. I'm not saying that diversity equals crime. What I'm saying is any tight-knit community, whether it's a Muslim tight-knit community or a British tight-knit community, if you're in a tight-knit community, excuse me, it's better than not being in one. It's better than being where everyone's a stranger, where you walk down the road and you don't know anybody. And we want to preserve that. So it's not that we're anti-Islam, it's just that we're pro our people. We're pro our families, you know, and their extended families. You know, I see my neighbours as a part of my extended family. I get on with it. I know everyone in my street, basically. So it was cowardice on their part that they weren't replying to us. Now, the worst thing, I suppose, so getting back to reading the Quran, I was surprised, because like you, on the telly, all you hear is from all the academics that Islam is a peaceful religion, if you can even call it a religion, actually. But I thought it'd be like Jesus. I thought Muhammad would be wandering around talking about love and peace and how brothership and fellowship and curing the sick and the blind. I thought it'd be like Buddha and Muhammad, you know. Muhammad would be going around like Buddha, saying, oh no, war is a bad thing. I was really shocked. Muhammad was a warrior. Muhammad was a warrior, and it's a warrior's doctrine. And Muhammad said, Allah has told me to tell you that if we can't convert people, we have two choices. We can tax them and let them live basically under slavery, or we can kill them. And it's our duty to do so. It's our duty to move into the lands of the unbelievers. This is in the Quran. Move into the lands of the unbelievers and let them see how harsh you can be. And that's what they're doing, isn't it? That's what they're doing in Africa. That's what they're doing in Eastern Europe. That's what they're doing in parts of the far west of China. That's what they're doing in Indonesia and the Philippines, Malaysia.
And in London.
And that's what they're doing here, in Paris, in Copenhagen, in Russia. It's not Christians running around cutting people's heads off or opening fire on synagogues or freedom of speech meetings. You know, I'm expecting a Muslim to run through this door in a moment and shoot him. He won't shoot me, Oxford. Much nicer target. Because they hate us. Because their holy book tells them to hate us. It says we're weak. It says that they must move into our lands, and when they become strong enough, they must take our lands. So, the next step, as I say, was the dirty tricks. What happened was, 2 days before the meeting was due to be held, before it was due to take place, I had a phone call from the chap that runs the ACA, the Addington Community Association, where the meeting was due to be held. He was very apologetic, and he was a little bit surprised. He said, I can't believe it. He said, the Labour have phoned me up, the council, Labour Council in Croydon, they phoned me up. He said, right at the last minute, as I was going home, before it was too late to fax anyone or whatever, or rearrange the meetings or rehire out the hall, he said, they've threatened to revoke my licence. He said, they're claiming that it's not a public meeting, it's going to be a BNP meeting, and they're claiming that the ACA's licence stipulates that there can be no political meetings of any stripe, Lib, Lab, Con, BNP, any other, on the premises. It has to be a community association. He said, I'm a bit aggrieved, he said, because I tried to phone them back and they're not answering my calls. About an hour later, I got a phone call from Yvette Cooper, the police officer who was dealing with it from Croydon Police Station. She was equally annoyed. She'd been given an email right at the last minute. She was 2 minutes from clocking off from work, saying same thing for Croydon Council. This meeting's cancelled because in our opinion, it's a political meeting by the BNP. It's not a community meeting. Therefore, we will revoke the licence. Blah blah blah. Now she'd already set. They have a budget. I mean, I don't know if you know, each police area has a budget that they have to administer. Now she'd obviously already set out. I think there were 6 police officers, possibly on overtime, I don't know. Or if they were full-time officers, they were obviously drawn from other areas. So she was really aggrieved. And she said, how dare they do this? It's really dirty tricks. She said, I've tried to email them back and they're not answering. This is the dirty tricks and the underhand tactics of Labour. And I know Dawn Charlton has had some experience of that as well. This is how desperate they are to stop communities, indigenous communities, native British people, working class people, me, you, us, from freedom of association and from giving our views and from asking them to do their job, which is to represent our views. They want your vote, but they don't want to hear what you've got to say. They just want your vote. So, we'd already put out the leaflets, which we paid for, as I say, from donations and from our own pocket, to the 2,000 signatures. It's not 2,000 houses, because you get 6 people from one house all signed, but it was well over 1,000 houses. We'd put out the signatures, put out the leaflets to say the meeting's on. It was all too late. We couldn't then go back at the 11th hour and knock on every door and say... So we decided we would have the meeting outside, in the car park. Which we did.
Good.
Now, that meeting did go ahead. On the door of the ACA was a big sign by Croydon Council saying this meeting is now no longer going to go ahead, it's cancelled. On the Croydon Advertiser newspaper website that morning, they put a thing out saying don't bother to turn up, that meeting's cancelled. So, as I say, in the face of dirty tricks, the meeting did go ahead, and it can be viewed on Croydon and Sutton Patriot. If you Google Croydon and Sutton Patriot, you can see the meeting in full. See my lovely self talking. So we won. Now, the good news is, as I said when I stood up, victory. This has now been, what, 5 months, 6 months? They've gone. We've been monitoring the Croydon Council Planning Application website. We've been monitoring the local papers. They've gone. We've won. When I say we've won, it is a BNP victory because I'm very happy that we put in the hours. But the people of Addington have won, and that's what's more important. We've won. The people have won. We've scared them off. They've looked at it and they've obviously thought, we're not wanted there. Maybe they're going to go to Shirley, in which case we'll go and fight it in Shirley. Maybe they'll go to Shrublands, in which case we'll help fight it in Shrublands. But we don't want it in our community. And in this day and age, when we're so put upon as a people, it is really a heartfelt pleasure for me to stand here and to say to my people, do you know what? We can win. The BNP can help our people in our communities to win. The BNP is a positive force going forward, because don't think UKIP would have done anything about it. If UKIP was in, they wouldn't care. They're civic nationalists, as someone pointed out earlier on. They don't care about our people, about our culture, our heritage, our history. So, as I say, we are going forward. Now, step 3, which I mentioned at the meeting, because I said there's 3 steps. Step 1 is to gauge public opinion. Step 2 is to organise and hold the meeting. Step 3 is always, in these situations, and we've done it up and down the country, step 3 is always to ask the audience if people with specialist knowledge, architects, people that perhaps have knowledge of how the council works, how planning applications work, how building applications work, to come forward completely divorced from the BNP and start a community group themselves to oppose the mosque. Now, as it happens, because we've won, we've not had to implement stage 3, because there are times when you do lose, and it does get planning permission, because you need to get in before they get planning permission, because then it becomes very, very difficult. So we've got in very, very quickly, and we've rebuffed them before they even got to the stage of asking for planning permission and drawing up plans. But you would need, as I say, stage 3 is to create a group within the community that is completely, so that the newspaper and the politicians can't say, oh, they're BNP, yeah, they got an agenda. They're completely just normal people, if you like. So, but we were lucky that we didn't have to do that, because we've rebuffed them, we've won, we have victory, and I'm going to say again, we have victory, and it feels great. And the good thing is, there are 3 bonuses that come from this. Bonus one is the wonderful feeling, not just for myself but in the community, that we've fought them off, that we do have a voice, that we do have power. If we stand together, we do have power. We fought them off. So that's the first bonus. Bonus 2, particularly for our group, is that we've raised our profile in the area. I mean, people knew who we were anyway, but now even more people know who we are. I constantly get stopped in the street. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but I'm constantly being stopped in the street and spoken to by people. I've become a community leader. It's funny, because when you see community leaders on telly, you know when they go to the news, and it's the London news, and they say, we're now going to hand over to the community leader for Peckham. And it's Abdullah someone or other, isn't it? Or it's, oh yeah, I used to be a gang member, but now I'm a community leader though, ain't it? Isn't it? It's refreshing to have an indigenous community leader, isn't it? Yeah. And so that is another bonus, and we're going to get many more. We're going to get many more. We're going to get community leaders in this branch and all over the country, and we're going to be a focus for our people so that they can come to us and they know that we're leaders of our communities, and we will be a voice for them. Now sometimes it's bad, sometimes people are not too kind, but I'm willing to take that. You know, my kids are grown up, what have I got to lose? If I can do something for my family going forward, it's no more than what my granddad did, or his dad in the war, you know. But you've got to stand up. If you don't stand up, if you lay down, people are going to tread on you. So I'm willing to do that. I've had some problems, I'm not going to go into them at the meeting tonight, but the vast majority of people coming up to me saying, you know, local issues with policing, local issues with vandalism, blah 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 blah, as a community leader. So that's bonus number 2. Now bonus number 3, those 2,000 signatures, sorry, bonus number 4, those 2,000 signatures that we garnered, that is a network. That is a ground swell of people that we know. As I say, they're not all indigenous people, but we know that those people are part of our community. And we know that we can go to those people on our paper round, we can knock on their door, we've got all their addresses. Would you like a Voice of Freedom, one of our newspapers? Would you like a copy of our leaflet? Would you like to come to our meeting? I've not seen this one yet, it's the new one, Defend the Rev, because if you can believe it, even the Reverend is being picked on. Oh, is that the new one? By the media. So I'm going to sum up now, because I'm God Almighty, and I'm probably going on too long, I'm probably running out of battery.
6 minutes left.
6 minutes, that's what my message is. This is the new one. We can say, would you like to be a regular contributor to our paper? They're helping us, they're helping themselves, they're helping their friends, because they give it to their friends, they take it to work, they give it out. So it's all positive. Going forward, we're building a network, which is something I know that Roger is passionate about, and I'm so pleased that he is. And we're building a groundswell and a network, and as community leaders, we're bringing our people together, and one word: victory. Thank you.
Right, Steve Squire here, London organiser. We've just had a good meeting here and a good talk by the chairman of Croydon and Sutton branch, way over there in South West London. Introduced to you, Cliff LeMay. Cliff,
Hello, mate.
thanks for coming over, Cliff.
Thank you, Steve.
That was a really good talk you gave there.
Thank you. It's nice to come to these sisters meetings because we have so many different groups now, and you get to know so many different people. Fantastic, and this meeting is really a vibrant meeting.
I was pretty impressed with the victory you had over there in South West London. It was interesting to see how the council tried to break up the community spirit there, didn't they, by accusing you of trying to divide the community, when in actual fact you was trying to keep the community together that was already there.
Well, I've got some breaking news. I've just heard on my phone that even though they denied us a meeting, saying that that venue couldn't hold political meetings, tomorrow the Labour Party are launching a meeting from the ACA.
What's going to be done about
Diane Abbott is going to be there. I think Barbara Hodge is going to be there. Tessa Jowl, I think is it Tessa Jowl? There's loads of Labour going to be there tomorrow.
Well, it won't be a political meeting,
Well, exactly. They can't have political meetings.
No, we can't have political meetings.
Exactly. We can't have. Well, the people of Addington can't even have political meetings. You know?
Well, it's just typical of the corporate totalitarian system we're now living in.
It's double standard. Yeah, double standard.
But you've sucked it to them over, that's the main.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. We won. We won. The people of Addington have won.
Well done.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Steve.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.